Oh man, what a fucking challenging film that is. The quote from the end of the movie, I remember the first time I watched the movie, I was baffled by the quote. That's a quote from the Bible. And the crux of it is whether or not he is a sinner, I do not know. All I know is this: once I was blind, but now I see. Scorsese's kind of mention to that is that the movie's director Martin Scorsese has been quoted saying that this reflects his own perspective on making the film, suggesting that while Jake LaMotta is a flawed character, he is not someone that I should judge. I just wanted to portray this as accurately as possible. And I think ultimately that is what Scorsese does in this film. It is a bizarrely close, not Scorsese's best. Ooh, a lot of people would disagree with you. This is I think a phenomenal film. But again, the reason we watched this movie is because of a quote that I had a disagreement with chat on. And the quote was from Simon Pegg when he was in the Criterion Film Closet. And he picked a movie that he basically said, well, this movie's hard to watch and it brings no joy, but I don't think the purpose of art is always to entertain. And the film was Blue Velvet. And I said, I think that's true, but I think at a certain point, film does have to entertain or else you lose people. And ultimately, I think if you watch this movie, it is a tremendous piece of art. I think it is probably the most artistic, well-made sports film ever. However, it doesn't have the classic staples of a sports movie. We don't have a training montage. We don't have a likable protagonist. We don't have an underdog fighting against outrageous odds. We have a wildly talented boxer who the greatest obstacle in his own professional life was the fact that he was a total fucking ne'er-do-well who couldn't get out of his own fucking way. Flopped the fight for the mob, beat the shit out of his brother, beat the shit out of his wife, total fucking scumbag. And he ends up penniless and alone and in this very tragic state of being. And it feels very just, right? It seems as though he earned the comeuppance that was coming his way. And the movie makes a really interesting prediction of this ultimately. After he loses the fight against Sugar Ray Robinson in a split decision, he says, I don't know, maybe this one is on me. Maybe I'm a jinx. I've done a lot of bad things. So ultimately, even Jake's character believes in karma. And his karma comes around in the end and dismantles his life. There's a lot to talk about this movie. If you've never been in film class, I'm going to talk for like the next 20 minutes and give a little bit of synopsis, and then we'll ask some questions. There's a lot to talk about the film craft in this movie. One of Scorsese's most technical films, I would say, in terms of like, this movie is so stylized compared to other Scorsese films. Scorsese usually makes very grounded, like gritty, realistic films. This film feels like almost like Wes Anderson's style, like level of stylization, where everything is, it looks like a stage play, and there's this weird like time dilation, and no, you're wrong. It's weird time dilation, and it's black and white, and it's surreal, and the violence is crazy, and the shots are bizarre, and it's way more stylized than almost any other Scorsese film you will watch. I think it's really interesting in a career of very close to the bone films like Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have this movie that kind of stands out in his career as this like very art house film, but the subject matter of the art house film is like the most base. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he made La Strada. It's not like he made a movie about a Greek tragedy. He made a movie about a greaseball boxer from the Bronx and told it like it was a Greek tragedy. So it's this really interesting juxtaposition in his like stylization of the story he tells. One of the coolest things about this movie, in my opinion, is The Ring. So Scorsese really wanted to capture the look and feel of this 1940s boxing ring. And so all of the boxing shots were shot before they did any of the drama of the film. So literally every one of the boxing scenes were filmed before they even cracked a narrative script. They banged that all out. And Scorsese made a bunch of different rings with different aspects and sizes because he wanted the feel of the ring to be different depending on Jake's mindset in the fight. So if you're watching the movie and at one point you're like, why does this ring feel huge right now? Well, it's because one of the rings is fucking huge. I think one of the rings was like 20 by 20. It's gigantic. It's fucking gigantic. And so it gives this really weird kind of like floating, drowning in the ring feel that is like most unusual. The other thing that Scorsese did in this movie that was really kind of fascinating and different is all of the people that you see that are cut men and referees and like other boxers were real. Those were referees and cut men and boxers because he wanted that all to feel like very tactile and real. So basically the only actor you see during those boxing sequences is De Niro. The rest of the people in the set with him in those fight preparation scenes in his corner, other than Joe Pesci, are like real boxers. They're cut men, they're referees, they're people in the world of boxing to give it that look and feel. I think this is a really tough movie because Jake LaMotta is so dislikable from Jump Street. And ultimately, the comeuppance of this movie takes so long to hit that you feel as though you're watching this bad person succeed. And it's really hard to watch, but ultimately it gives this really interesting, satisfying flavor to the tragedy at the end, where like a lot of Greek tragedy, it kind of feels like, God damn, what the fuck did he do to deserve this? You know what I mean? But with LaMotta, by the end, you're like, oh yeah, motherfucker. When he's punching that wall and he's like, I'm not that bad a guy. What did I do? You're like, well, maybe you are. Yeah, I always think it's fascinating that this film is a direct rebuke rebuttal to Rocky. You know what I mean? If you are to watch the two movies, to me, it feels like Rocky came after this. You know, the Rocky hype and lineage feels like so current because they're still making Rockies. But when you remember that this is like the auteur's response to Rocky, and it's quite clear that I think Scorsese took an issue with lionizing boxers and kind of this brutal art form through film the way that Rocky had. He was like, no. This is Hollywooded. There's nothing glamorous about boxing. Let me show you. Let me show you what boxing and boxers are really like. And that's kind of what felt like the what he's trying to do with this movie. De Niro is fucking unbelievable in this movie. I will say, whether you liked it or not, I still, even though Raging Bull isn't maybe necessarily my favorite Scorsese film, I still think it's a very impressive Scorsese film. But I do think that De Niro in Raging Bull is like one of his quintessential performances, because I watch this movie and I don't see Robert De Niro. I see Jake LaMotta. I am so like the small things he does, the stagecraft at the end, the way he talks, the way he projects that phobia and that just constant insecurity. It's just incredible. Pesci, for one of his first major roles, absolutely kills this. You can see why he went on to have the career he did. And ultimately, you know what's funny is, like, I feel like Pesci in this movie, as opposed to Home Alone, My Cousin Vinny, Goodfellas, Casino, Irishman, is more of a nuanced performance than he is in those subsequent films. You know what I mean? I feel like Pesci became a caricature of Pesci, and at this point, he's still kind of new, and there's some depth there, and he's not totally a clown. But it's a great performance. And then the other person I have to, everybody in this film is fantastic, but the other person I got to give credit to is Kathy Moriarty, who played Vicky. She was 19 when she made that movie. And that blows my fucking mind to this day, that she was an unproven 19-year-old actress. And Jesus fucking Christ, what an unbelievably difficult role. I mean, like, he's smacking her around. He's fucking screaming at her. He's pulling her hair. It's just like, dude, you have to be just an auteur. You have to be an actor. You have to be a real talent to not only act, but to do something so fucking hard. What a hard performance that is. Yeah, I as I said, I had a real purpose behind watching a film. Bro, you're on crack. Pesci is insane in The Irishman. I didn't say he wasn't good in The Irishman. I was saying that this performance is more nuanced than a lot of his other performances. But Irishman, good. That's what you want, right? Irishman ? Good movie. No, I really enjoy this movie, and I think I enjoy it in such a strange way. I'll be so for real, and maybe this will build a bridge to a lot of people that maybe feel a little kind of disenfranchised by this movie. The first time I watched this movie, I think I was 21 years old. And I was coming off of like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. And I was just watching all the Scorsese stuff. And I was like, Raging Bull. People love this movie. It's a movie about a boxer. I love Rocky. Let's watch a boxer. And I hated it. I fucking hated this movie. I was like, what are we, this guy? Oh, brother, this guy stinks. And I couldn't get over how much I reviled Jake LaMotta. The whole time I was like, why am I watching a story about this piece of shit? And I think ultimately I had to kind of become a wiser person and then also understand why Scorsese was telling this story, right? The Bible quote. He wasn't trying to judge or assign blame. He was trying to lay a boxing story about a boxer who had been lionized for decades and still was into his 90s, and lay it flat and be like, Rocky? For real? Rocky? No, look. This is the real price of gladiatorial combat. Rocky doesn't go home at the end of having his fucking face smashed in and have a happy ever after. People pay for their lives. They pay with their lives for this shit. And I think it's a really interesting rebuke, because I do think there is some beauty in combat sports. I do. But it is hard to look past the cost that people pay. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but both my uncle and my grandfather were professional fighters at one point in their life. They were both Michigan Golden Gloves. And my grandfather fought one of the greatest fighters in the world. He fought Joe Louis. And Joe Louis beat the ever-loving shit out of him before he became the heavyweight champion. Joe said it was the hardest he had ever been hit. But ultimately, it was that fight that inspired my grandfather to retire. And so they remained friends. Joe and my grandfather, John Ebers, remained friends for years and years and years and years. And I actually had a very interesting experience. I have the news clipping. My mom sent me the news clipping of the day that Joe Louis died. The day that Joe Louis died, the Grand Rapids Tribune, I think it was, came and did an interview with my grandfather about Joe Louis. And because they had remained friends for years and years, he had a lot to say. And the interesting thing is the first thing my grandfather wanted to talk about in 1981 when Joe Louis died was about how important it was to have black athletes in sport, which was, I mean, crazy for a farmer in 1981, a German farmer in 1981 to be like, I really appreciated Joe Louis. I thought he was a great guy. But he goes on to tell this story that haunts me. He goes on to tell this story where the last time he saw Joe, they were at some kind, I think they were at like 4-H or something like that. And Joe, like a lot of boxers from that era, kind of ended the end of his career tragically without much money. And so they would roll him out at events like 4-H or the, whatever fair, and he would make an appearance as the champ. And my grandfather brought him apples because Joe liked apples, and my grandfather owned an orchard, and he wanted to go say hi to his friend. And he said that Joe Louis was like so punch drunk at that point that he kind of didn't almost recognize his old friend who he had, now known for decades. And he basically made this comment where he's like, listen, I probably could have been a much more successful professional boxer. But Joe Louis did me a great favor because he beat the shit out of me so fucking hard that I decided I didn't want to box. And ultimately, that I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that ass kicking probably saved me from a very similar fate, where in the tail end of my life, I wouldn't be able to stand on my own 2 feet and have cognitive thoughts anymore. And for that, I thank him. Which is kind of blew my mind. But yeah, a very personal anecdote about boxing and about, violent sports and the price that these young men and women pay when they engage in these sports. Because ultimately it's your life and it's your freedom, but your brain is a terrible thing to waste. So I think that Raging Bull, from a cinematic perspective, relays that same feeling, invokes that same sense of catharsis about loss and paranoia and being punchy and being punch drunk. And being forgotten after you are no longer a champion, because they always love you when you're up. But who's going to love you when the bell rings or when you get your bell rung? So that's it. That's the end of Raging Bull Night. I hope you guys enjoyed. Now I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm sorry if I snapped at anybody during the run of the film. I always am trying to open you up. If I snapped at anybody, if I was like, hey, it's because I'm trying to get you to open up yourself to something you're closing yourself to. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think people naturally become defensive, and you don't need to be defensive, right? The amazing thing about a film is it plays out on a screen. It has no bearing on how you're going to live your life or your experiences or anything. It is a story told on a screen. And I think it's sometimes too close to the bone. Abuse, problems, the very real pedophilia in this movie make people close down, and then they don't appreciate the larger message on the piece of art. What are your thoughts on CTE? My thoughts on CTE. I don't know what you're asking. I mean, CTE bad? Yes, CTE bad. I don't know how to speak about it beyond obviously that it's awful. The reality of the situation is this: sport comes with a risk. Sport inherently comes with a risk, whether it be CTE or damage to your joints or bones or your eyes or whatever. Sport carries with it a risk. Granted, it's variable. It's variable, right? Do you have the same risk of getting hurt cycling that you do boxing? No, but there's still a risk. And ultimately, I think we have seen a trend in sports that they become more and more safe as time goes on. And the sports that aren't safe, you got to vote with your wallet. You know what I mean? You got to vote with your eyes. Don't watch Power Slap. Why? Because it's fucking dumb. And it just hurts the athletes. You know what I mean? If you want my take, support the sports that are doing their best to protect their athletes and make it a better game. Because ultimately, you're not going to get rid of these games, right? Tomorrow, they're not going to get rid of football. It's not going to happen. But at least the NFL is making an effort to have a players' union and to make the helmets better and to screen for concussions and to give longer downtime. Is it a perfect system? No, but they're doing their best. And I think ultimately, vote with your eyes, support sports that are making themselves safer. And if they stop doing that, stop watching them, right? That is the main thing. If you want change in these sports, if you think these sports need to be safer, stop watching them. What do you think about the choice to film in black and white? So I do think that is inspired by this film La Strada, which is very openly the inspiration for Raging Bull. This is La Strada. If you've ever seen it, it is the visual inspiration for Raging Bull. And I think the other reason Scorsese directly says he watched these fights. Scorsese grew up watching these fights, and his memory of these fights, or the footage from these fights, are the black and white footage from Madison Square Garden, right? That black and white footage from Madison Square Garden of guys, we got a real cracker of a fight. And he really wanted to capture that look and feel. But again, he wanted to make it a stage play, and he's an auteur, and he wanted to make it artistic. So there you go. He did a camera test in color and hated it. Yeah, he also did some other things in this film that I haven't talked about, but I will. He actually went through and scratched a lot of the footage with like a key because he wanted it to feel grainier. He does a lot of very interesting stuff in this film, but, we're cursory level. Do you feel like this is an important Scorsese film because it portrays people instead of characters? I think it is an important Scorsese film because with peace and love, a lot of Scorsese's best projects are very similar. The Irishman is a lot like Goodfellas, is a lot like Casino, is, you know what I mean? He did a lot of like mob and mob adjacent, and obviously this is mob adjacent, but the way that he composes the frame, the way that this film looks is so different to those films. So different. And I think that is what's cool. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of directors pick a visual style and basically their entire film catalog, even great filmmakers like a Robert Eggers, like, other than The Lighthouse, like, he has a look and feel. Same thing with Edgar Wright. Same thing with Wes Anderson. So it's cool to see a Martin Scorsese film that looks so different than the other films he's made. I wish we could watch Taxi Driver, but I think it's too much for stream. I would say Taxi Driver is a lot less than this movie. I can't remember if there's tits, but... Really? Did you actually track it down that fast? That's crazy. Hey, there you go. There's my grandpa. Dude, isn't it crazy how much we look alike? Holy shit, bro. Holy shit. There you go. Sparta High. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Now you know it's a true story. My grandfather was a tremendous boxer, and he fought Joe Louis. I feel like a modern version of this movie would be The Wrestler by Darren Aronofsky. Perfect comp. Geo, perfect comp. Literally a perfect comp. One is a story about a fictional character. One is a biopic, but you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. If Scorsese were to win an Oscar before The Departed, which should it have been? Goodfellas. 100% Goodfellas. Taxi Driver too, honestly, in my opinion. Taxi Driver's fucking incredible, but Goodfellas is the shit, man. What was the importance of the few scenes that were in color? Are you okay? Are you stroking out? Oh, you're talking about the home movies. Oh, you're right. Good pull. I think that is, you know what? I honestly was wrong. There is some color in the home movie section. I think he wanted it to look like home movies. He wanted this to look like home movies. So there's color in it. I literally was like, was I asleep? Did I miss like segments that had color in them? No, he wanted that to be like a home movie. Look, see, even the teacher's wrong sometimes. Better pull than me. I was so immersed, I totally forgot that little home movie is in color. Raging Bull is one of those movies that's beautifully sad. And chat, if you're interested in similar movies or slice of life films about the brutality of life, I highly recommend some Eastern European ones. The Oak, 1992. Post-communist Romanian is a good entry point. Have you ever watched Iron Claw? This film reminded me of it. Yeah, Iron Claw is kind of similar for sure. When are we gonna watch Come and See? Dude, we couldn't even get through Raging Bull, man. Chat, dude, if chat is like, oh, I don't like this, at the end of Come and See, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna have to pull the fucking 45 out of Chatter's mouths. What is that movie about? Hell. I mean, I think oh, cool. Cool. That's awesome. That's very cool. What was the question before that? I blacked out. I was answering a question. We can't hear TTS. You'll be okay if you can't hear TTS. This movie was interesting, but to me, what stood out most was just how different the times were. Oh, hang on. I'll turn the alerts back on. I'm sorry. There you go. What stood out to me most was just how different the times were, the violence, the minors. If a movie were made in modern days, who would be a good athlete? What awful traits could be emphasized?
In the NFL, but it all came crashing down. In 2013, he was arrested for the murder of Odin Lloyd, his fiance's sister's boyfriend. Just 2 years later, he was sentenced to life in prison. Then, in 2017, Hernandez was acquitted of a separate double murder, but just days later, he was found dead in his cell. An autopsy revealed he had severe CTE, a brain disease linked to head trauma in football players. Did it play a role in his downfall? From NFL star to convicted murderer, what do you think really happened?
I like how everybody's so bent about the audio. Yeah, I had to fix the audio. We use a different audio for the movie. The Aaron Hernandez story is fucking insane. The Aaron Hernandez story is fucking insane. Bro, you're bugging. Conor McGregor is more apt? No. Conor McGregor is a piece of shit. Aaron Hernandez killed a guy over $200. He had $12 million guaranteed that season. He killed someone. He killed his friend over $200, man. The stories about Aaron Hernandez are fucking insane. Friend, quotations? No, it was his friend. No, he killed his friend. He killed his buddy. It would be like if I killed Marsh over $200. The Aaron Hernandez story is fucking insane. And dude, the way that he would walk around the locker room and like, he'd be like, yeah, I want to suck your dick, F word. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? I'll suck your dick. And then he would like jerk off in front of people. Bro, he was crazy. Crazy. Full blown crazy. And he was on a Super Bowl winning team. He was one of the best players in the NFL. And he was like 27 years old. It was wild. The Aaron Hernandez story is the most wild modern sports story, like the most wild modern sports tragedy. Because at that point, we hadn't really dealt with like the effects of CTE. And the NFL has this expression called talent over everything. Talent over everything. And now the NFL is doing more to like protect players.
Oh yeah, wow, that's very cool.
This already great movie was made so much better by your expertise in both boxing and film. Neff King.
They're doing more to protect players. Pfft, no, you're wrong. Just you're wrong. Please, if you don't watch football, you don't know what you're talking about. Like literally this week, Christian Wilkins, one of the best players in football, was cut for his erratic behavior. So like this would have never happened 10, 20 years ago. This would have never fucking happened. Ever. Let me make something clear to you. 20 years ago, if a Pro Bowl player demonstrated erratic behavior, no one would have given a fucking shit. But now we're in a different era of sports where you can't do that shit. Christian Wilkins kissed a buddy in the locker, or a player in the locker room, and he was like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? And they were like, dude, you can't do that. You got to go. Aaron Hernandez used to fucking jerk off in front of his teammates. So like, we've come a long way in terms of like identifying these things. But, you know, there was a time in the NFL where it didn't matter if you were a violent criminal or an offender or fully crazy. As long as you were putting up stats, you were taking the field. So, sir, could you please explain the meaning of the last cinematic fight where it looks like he basically gives up and lets him be turned into a swollen, bloody mess? There's a lot going on there. I think.
I'm bossy.
Yes.
I don't take no shit from anyone.
Have you ever seen The Piano Factory? It's a Chinese dark comedy. I think you would like it.
No, I haven't seen it. I see your point, but I don't think that this film is solely about sports or boxing, the rise and fall of a boxer. What I first watched this film, I was stunned by the meta commentary on masculinity and how the ego of hubris led men. Yeah, that wasn't the question made by Medias. Someone asked if they were going to make a modern sports story about the greatest fall from grace, who would it be? It wasn't if they were going to remake Raging Bull, who would they make it on? The question was, if there was a modern sports tragedy, what would it be on? And Aaron Hernandez is the greatest sports tragedy of like our time. Yeah, I do think Conor McGregor is a better parallel for this exact film, but that wasn't the question. Oh, my fault. No worries. Yeah, no, Conor McGregor's fall from grace has been baffling. Dude, I still remember cheering for him when he beat Jose Aldo like 10 years ago. Dude, that was the most exciting fight I had ever watched. When this fucking Irish underdog knocked this fucking guy out. It's crazy. Absolutely insane. And then everything afterward was a fucking nightmare. What was the question that I was answering before that? Oh God. What was the question before that? Oh, fuck. The last fight. Oh, why does he let himself become a bloody mess? He had let himself go. His boxing career was over. And ultimately, his biggest rival was Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, from a historic perspective, Jake LaMotta always did hold it over Sugar Ray's head that he never was knocked down. Even though Sugar Ray beat him 3 times and he only beat Sugar Ray once, he always talked about, well, Sugar Ray never put me down. Sugar Ray never put me down. Sugar Ray never put me down. This was an actual talking point of the real man. And so I think Scorsese wanted to highlight that. But also, I think it speaks to Jake's ego. 6 fights. Sorry, there you go. There's the actual. It speaks to Jake's ego that he wasn't put down. Also, I think Scorsese is kind of showing that maybe Jake was punishing himself sometimes when he stepped in the ring, and he liked the violence. He liked to have the shit kicked out of him. And, Sugar Ray was kind of nemesis for him. An appropriate, or what is it? Do you know what nemesis means? An appropriate agent, or a show of retribution applied by an appropriate agent. In your case, me, an horrible old cunt. So truly, Sugar Ray was his nemesis. Um, why did he kiss his brother so much? Because he was trying to get any love back at all, and there was none. There was no love left from his brother at all. It's hard to love somebody after you beat the shit out of him in front of his kids. But he was just trying anything to get his brother to react to him. Interestingly enough, Joe Pesci's character isn't as prevalent in the book, and he wasn't as prevalent in the original script. And they went through and retooled it because they wanted to have a more likable character and to have kind of like more of a ground for LaMotta. And Scorsese says that character saved the film. So, Scorsese has his actors that he's worked with for decades. He's done some work with Timothée Chalamet on commercials lately, and there's speculation Scorsese would like to work with Chalamet as his new Leo. What movie do you think they'd make? Something shitty. Scorsese's lost it, man. No, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't think Scorsese has many films left in the tank. I know some people loved Killers of the Flower Moon, but I thought it was, oh brother, this guy stinks. Shit take? I don't know. Maybe. Same with The Irishman. I thought the Irishman was okay. I thought The Irishman was okay. I thought The Irishman was good. But I disliked Killers of the Flower Moon. And you know who else really hated Killers of the Flower Moon? The Osage Nation, the Native Americans that the film was made about. They all thought it was fucking dog shit. So I think I'm on the right side of history there. Laughing my ass off, stop. No, I'm just being honest. Did they? They fucking hated it. Do you know why they didn't like it? Because he makes Native Americans look like fucking infants. He totally misportrayed the situation. Native Americans weren't easily duped at that point. They had no ability to stand up against the fucking US government and the racism that they faced every single fucking day. Scorsese totally missed the point. He went out to tell a sympathetic story, and ironically, he made Native Americans look horrible. He made them look like, oh, well, we're just going to be taken advantage of, I guess, which wasn't the case. They fought tooth and nail. They had no ability to resist because they were living in America at a time when everything was fucking so overbearing. It was insane. I don't know. I hated Killer of the Flower Moon. I hated it. It's also not his story to tell. Will you ever watch I don't know what you're writing. We made over 300 trees with Native Americans when we started colonizing, and we broke every single one. That part. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I get what, listen, I'm being a little critical. I understand what Scorsese was doing. To his credit, he was trying to tell Killers of the Flower Moon from the perspective of the horrible nightmare white guy, because he was like, well, I don't want to project and try and like give my perspective as a white guy from the Osage Indians. So I'll tell the story from the perspective of the fucking foil, awful, miserable scumbag white dude in the story, but it just doesn't work. It just feels so weird. It's just absolutely crushing. The whole movie, you're just like, Jesus fucking Christ. If you think Raging Bull is difficult, Raging Bull is like a C compared to watching Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon is like having your genitals flogged, and not the sexy kind of flogging. Like a horrible, like a team of mosquitoes just feasting on your scrotum. It's that kind of discomfort for hours and hours and hours. What did you say inspired Raging Bull? La Strada. Anyway, it's not that bad a movie. It's just not my shit. I give nerd takes. I go big on everything. I got to reel myself in and remind myself that this isn't part of like my performance as Will Neff, the streamer. I'm Will Neff, the teacher right now. Killers of the Flower Moon isn't great. It's not horrible. It's like a C. How was training, and did you almost fight? I loved training some days, and I hated training some days. There were some days that I loved training. There was one day that I got my bell rung. Like I got knocked out on my feet. And that was a crazy feeling. Like just being cloudy for like the next week or two was a wild feeling. But I really enjoyed boxing. There was a lot about boxing that I fell in love with. Favorite Kubrick film? Ooh, God. It's hard to beat 2001: A Space Odyssey for me. I love it. Was it Myth? I can't remember if it was Myth. It might have been. We sparred so much, man. I sparred 4 days a week, basically. All right. Any more questions? Any more questions about this movie? What's another movie about a fall from grace that you would recommend? Fall from grace. I'm trying to get one that are like in the same vein. Because there are a lot of good tragedies I would recommend. I think The Godfather Part 2 is another like really fucking good fall from grace. The Godfather Part 2 is like a fantastic fall from grace. Fantastic. That last scene, the door closing, Jesus Christ. There Will Be Blood is another one if you haven't seen it. And then I never get to do this. Citizen Kane. There's something very funny about being a film teacher and recommending Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane. Yeah, there you go. Why? Because Citizen Kane is considered the best movie of all time, which is like, how do I explain this? It's like the Michelin restaurant of films, where like so much of it comes from like its legacy of prestige. I don't know if it's actually the greatest film of all time. It's pretty good. But like most film lists will be like Citizen Kane. And like I don't know if it deserves to be, you know what I mean? Like it's truly like the film guy jerk off movie where Citizen Kane. Oh, Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? But in this rare instance, I can recommend it without being like pretentious. It is a great fall from grace movie. Joey makes a scene in that bar and is, in a way, channeling Jake's insecure, passive persona. He kind of gets his shit together after being made to apologize while Jake keeps spiraling. Do you think this is a statement on how big stars seem to be immune to consequences while they're making people money? Ooh, could be. I don't think that was the point Scorsese was making, but it's a very interesting point you're making. I like the point you're making. I think it has a little bit to do with like cycles of violence and the paranoia of one man bleeding into the people around him, and about how abusers like to isolate people by making them feel the same paranoia and delusion they have. Ultimately, I think his brother was actually like a pretty good guy, despite being a little gruff. And he was trying to protect his brother's wife in his own weird way, because he knew that even if she didn't cheat, oh my God, if he found out, Jesus Christ. Why didn't his brother or wife deny having an affair? His brother denied having an affair over and over again, but they both got to the point. You're supposed to basically assume that this is a question he asks every single day of his life. This is a question that Jake asks almost every day of his life. Did you fuck that guy? Did you fuck that guy? Did you fuck him? Do you want to fuck him? Do you want to fuck that guy? Did you suck that guy's cock? Are you thinking about sucking that guy's cock? Like, literally, he woke his wife up because she said, oh yeah, that new good-looking up-and-comer you're going to fight. And he's like, why you think he's good look? Why you say he's good looking? Why you say that? Because everybody thinks that. It's like how he's known. What the fuck? But they're just showing like how manic he is. So you gotta understand that these, like, they've gotten to the point, and he's asking his brother, like, when did you fuck her? How did you fuck her? And he's like, this is sick, dude. I'm not gonna fucking answer this. Serious question as a content creator. Do you think that film as a medium will be around in 50 years? I think younger people would rather watch a YouTube video or a Twitch streamer than watch a film. Do you want my honest take? 50 years, yeah, film will be around. Unfortunately, in 100 years, I don't think any media will be around. I don't think there will be any artistic creative medium. I think that all entertainment media will be a immersive experience that you put on your basically head to totally immerse your field of view, all your senses, tactile, smell, hearing. And basically it will be created by artificial intelligence. You'll basically be like, hey, give me a spy story where I'm the main character and I get my cock sucked 4 times during the course of the story. And you'll just plug yourself in, and it will create a story based around you. But I think all artistic media will kind of wither at that point. No thanks. I mean, it's not something I want. It's just what I foresee. That's depressing. Yeah. Why do you think Scorsese uses the failing stand-up trope in the movie with De Niro? Is it something to do with Scorsese's feeling of comics? In this instance, it's because Jake LaMotta did it. Like that is true to life what Jake LaMotta did for like the last 30 years of his career is the failing stand up. Like that's what he did. If you're asking about King of Comedy, I think he wanted to tell a story about delusion. And ultimately, I think stand-ups in a very interesting way are like some of the most delusional and needy people about like wanting people to like them, like a need to be liked. Funny people develop humor usually because as like a defense mechanism. I certainly did. And it's like a way to immediately get people to like you. So I think in that story, he chose it as a medium because the delusion was wanting to be the host of a late night show. I'm saying that, do you think AI is the downfall, so to speak? The downfall. I think humanity is the downfall. I think we were programmed wrong from the start. I think we were fighting a losing battle from the time we took our first upright steps. I don't think AI changed anything. I think we were doomed from the moment that we picked up the first bone as a tool. I think there are people that transcend that mortal coil, that human instinct, and preach to us about how to break that same shackle. And I think we kill those people. The sperm retention superstition was an interesting insight to point out during the movie. Do you think self-suck could be a convenient workaround to that? No. You took the time to type a joke question, but Schmangy Pork, I'm going to do the worst thing possible, and I'm going to answer your question legitimately and not give you any kind of laugh here. Semen retention is an old practice that is tied to combat sports because it's supposed to make you more aggressive. And ultimately, there are a lot of very famous fighters that very much believe in this idea. Mike Tyson famously would not allow himself to fuck until after he won the heavyweight belt. And so all of this semen retention is kind of like a wives' tale, but Customato, his boxing trainer, basically told him that he should not spill seed because he would be less aggressive. How did we find that out? Because it was such a well-known practice. So many fighters retain semen. When AI is able to create the arts we have now, do you think people will not inherently still want to create, or will AI just straight end it? AI will never be able to create art. AI will be able to create amazing things, incredible, immersive, entertaining, riveting, arousing things. But the one thing it will never be able to create is art, because art comes from human experience. It comes from catharsis and empathy and understanding. And ultimately, all AI will ever be able to do is recycle. It can only recycle. It'll do amazing things. It'll immerse you. It'll make you come. It'll entertain you. But it will never create art. AI will make you come. Don't be a fucking idiot. Right now, there are more AI women on OnlyFans than real women. And in just a few short months, they're going to actually start outpacing them in terms of earnings. Real shit? Real shit. Have you ever heard there's a manga about Native American massacre called Red Living on the Edge? I haven't. But if you ever want like one of my favorite Native American comic book things, check out Black Science. I think it's like issue 4 or something like that. There's an alternative universe of the United States where the Native Americans basically push back Columbus and kill him, and they take over the United States, and they reimagine World War II with Native Americans versus the Nazis. And all of the Native American technology is like super sustainable, and it's fucking rad. It's like they all have like these like Zeppelins that are made out of like sustainable materials. It's really cool. What's it called? Black Science. It's not a huge part of the story, but it's one of my favorite little like reimaginings of alternate history. Okay. Any other questions about the film? Do you know if the real Jake LaMotta ever changed his ways, maybe after watching his own biopic? Well, I quoted it. He talked to his wife, and he was like, was I that bad? And she was like, you were worse. So I think Jake was always kind of a scumbag. Ultimately, the writing process was heavily influenced by Jake's ex-wife because they literally went and stayed with her. So a lot of this is firsthand account of like how he was. Vicky, I don't know if it was Vicky. It might have been one of the ones later on. I'm not sure though. Not a question. Did you know the film originally didn't have the brother Joey? Yeah, we talked about it. They retooled it. Can you give some insight into the characterization of Jack and Joey? Thank you, Spanky Pork. I appreciate you. That is a saved self-suck enthusiast. Anyway, I think we've covered most things. Here's Johnny. Oh, thank you so much. I think that's my full time for film class.
Wow, that's very cool.
So
Your class helped me tackle so many challenging movies for my watch list. I appreciate all these months of great movie classes.
You're welcome. Over 200 films, ladies and gentlemen. 200 films. I have to actually go record an audition, or I would go later. So ironically enough, I'm going to go record an audition. But I have this to say. Thank you for coming to film night. It's my favorite night of the week, every week, because I get to do my favorite thing, which is watch movies. And while films might not last forever, they're here now, and they've been here for many, many years, and they're important. They can make you feel empathy for things that are outside your purview. They can show you a way of life that you don't know. Ultimately, if you watch enough good ones, they can make you a better person. So thank you for choosing to spend your Wednesday here with me. Next week, I promise you, I swear, we will be watching an easier film. I promise, okay? I promise you that. Next week, you guys are right. We've been watching some heavy ones. We'll watch something light and cute and kind and fun. Thank you for spending your Wednesdays with me. I hope I make your life just a little bit better because you make mine so much better. I'm sending you over to Caroline Kwan. I'm going to go record an audition. Thank you for all that you do. I might not be back tomorrow. As you know, I have the podcast. I'll do my best to go live. This weekend, I'm going to Joshua Tree. I don't know how much I'm going to be live. Again, I'll do my best to get live. You might see Marsh and I from a laptop. Anyway, stay dangerous, everyone. I appreciate you so much. Have a wonderful evening and stay dangerous and good night.